What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Auto Garage YouTube channel. My name is Michael, and recently my 1996 NA Mazda Miata crossed over the 150,000 mile mark. For such a small car, especially one that's been modified, beat on, driven by teenagers, that's a lot of miles. And this car has taken it surprisingly well. It drives and runs surprisingly well. And I'm just gonna be showing you how it's handled all of the miles and abuse, how well it's taken it, and what to look for when your Miata is into the higher mileage. This is a 1.8 car, and I've seen 1.6 cars with the weaker motor be in the 300,000 mark. So compared to other Miatas, this is by no means is high mileage, but that still is a lot of miles. So let's get into the video. Start with the body. The metal on the Miata is pretty thin, so dents happen pretty easy. Like I can push down on the trunk and the metal caves in. So it's pretty thin metal, so finding a clean body is pretty difficult because contact very easily disturbs it. The hood also is a good spot for nicks and dents to happen if someone sits on it, if anything hits it. I mean, that's normal, but this car especially, just because it's so thin, dents are very easy to come up. And also with the body, rust. These cars are notorious for rusting right here on the rear quarters because rainwater goes in and collects right there because the drains clog up. You can see some of my shoddy Bondo work. I did that on both sides when I sanded the car down and repainted it, because when I sanded off the paint, I found a lot of rust. These cars are notorious for rusting. Mine, however, isn't that bad. For this car, it's minimal, especially being on the East Coast where it rains a lot and we get some salty roads. So the body is all right, but clearly not perfect. Next up, I'm gonna take you guys to the interior. Both the doors open and close perfectly, by the way. The driver's side, you have to slam a little bit, but everything still works. All the mechanical components inside are mint. The mirrors also still adjust with the power mirror controls. These leather seats are not from this car. This car came with cloth seats, and the cloth on the driver's side was absolutely destroyed. And the leather, they are from a different Miata, and they have held up fairly well. There's some stretch marks and stuff. That one has some duct tape on it because foamectomy was done on this, where they take out some of the cloth on the inside so you sit a little bit lower in the car. But overall, the interior is not bad. It's definitely not mint. The shift boot needs to be replaced. But other than that, it's not bad. There is a crack on the dash. And these dashboards are pretty strong. It's not like S chassis where this whole the whole thing just is a mess. So the interior is all right. Carpet's ripping up. On this side, it's coming out from the, it's actually coming out from the door, or from like the side, whatever. But, I mean, no broken buttons, everything works except for the cruise control. And this is a very common issue for Miatas. The cruise control just stops working. So I actually ended up taking it out from under the engine bay. We'll see that later, because there's no point in having it in the car if it doesn't work. We do have an aftermarket stereo too, which goes to the aftermarket speakers, and all that works great. Pop-up headlights work, no hesitation whatsoever. All the lights and everything works, turn signal works. There isn't anything weird going on. Both pockets do have a hole under them. So it's definitely not in great shape, but I wouldn't say it's in rough shape. The top was replaced in August, so the top is great. And the windows, interestingly enough, I think the motors might be going out. So turn it on. They are terribly slow. They're even slower going down. And that's quality-wise, this is probably my biggest complaint about the car. I can live with everything else, but when I'm wanting to put the top down and all the windows down, that is a good bit annoying. All this works, by the way, I forgot to mention, heat works. AC works okay, but it still does work. So that's the interior. And this is being recorded at home. I put an aftermarket wheel in there about 500 miles ago. This is the OEM wheel. As you can see, it's peeling. This started happening when I let it sit in the sun once or twice. It just started peeling from the top. It's just not in great quality, as you can tell. Very old, lots of wear. And if you take the airbag off, it's like really rusty and just gross inside. Wheel was definitely an item that needed to be replaced, although both horn buttons did work well. It just wasn't in good shape cosmetically. And I'm probably going to be clowned for this part under the hood. Yep, it's being held up by a hockey stick. My prop rod just decided to fall out. It didn't want to be part of the car anymore. But honestly, at the end of the day, that's more weight reduction, so I'm okay with that. The engine. This poor little guy has been running for a long time, and he still does it great. I have no problems whatsoever except for a little bit of oil consumption. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. This engine is very thirsty for oil, but that's the only fluid in this car that isn't fine. Diff fluid's fine, trans fluid's fine, coolant, everything else. This car stays cool, never overheats. The only fluid problem is it consumes a little bit of oil, and this engine's never not started on me. It's never idled funny. I've never had any of the gauges act funny. The power plant and the gearbox for this car have been flawless. No problems whatsoever. Which is surprising, such a small engine that's been treated so harshly still works this well after this many miles. And Miatas are known for being reliable. You can definitely push them too hard. And I treat this car pretty well. I don't baby it, especially if you've seen some of the other videos on my channel. I do not, by any circumstance, baby this car. But it's held up great. I tried to do some heat wrap on the headers and this little shield right here to keep the temp on my intake a little bit cooler. I will be doing a colder intake, by the way. And this is where the cruise control sat. I have taken it out. I need to get rid of some of these wires that don't do anything anymore. Yeah, because cruise control is a common thing to break. But I never road trip this car anyway. It's not designed to be a road trip car, so I can live by that. And the last thing that's wrong with this car from factory, excuse all my junk, there is no carpet in the trunk whatsoever, and the battery is held in with a bungee cord. Not the nicest trunk area in the world. As you can clearly tell, there's just fuel lines running right there. But it's good enough for me. I mean, I don't really care about this. I know a lot of people would, and honestly, you probably should, but that's the car in all its glory, all its beautiful flaws. I think the main thing with this car isn't the dents and whatnot, it's just the lack of stuff. In 2 years, all NA Miatas will be classified as classic cars. They'll all be at least 25 years old. The oldest right now being 30 years old. So these cars, not so much with damage are showing their age, but with features. Nothing in this car is power assisted, except the later models had power windows, which is alright. I'd rather have roller windows, honestly, and power steering. Just about everything else is manually operated. Everything is cable driven. There is no electronics in this door. You pull this, and it pulls a cable, popping the door open. There's no way to get your remote to work in this door unless you buy a kit online, because there's nothing electronic in there. And same goes for the trunk. You can't have power locks on this car because it just wasn't built that way. This was a cheaply built car directed towards an affordable market. They wanted to make this as affordable as they could. So, and especially by 25 years ago standards, they were able to skip out on a lot of features and details that make cars more livable and that make cars more comfortable. But I don't really care about that stuff. I just care about if a car is fun and engaging. So let me know what you think. What features would you be able to live with and live without? Is this a good example for 150,000 miles? It's very, very far from the worst, but possibly even farther away from the best. Just let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great day.